As you can see, it's a beautiful building here. And I figured I'd go live since I'm down here and take a few minutes to talk about Vince McMahon and how I think he might be the newest in the slew of characters that all of a sudden are getting lawsuits put against them out of the blue. This right here is actually new, as they put up here. And this has been in probably in the past year, maybe year and a half. It wasn't here previously. So while I wait for everybody to get in here, I'm gonna let y'all take a moment to gather in here. We're gonna talk about Vince McMahon and his latest charges. What's going on, Yolanda Green? We're up here at WWE headquarters, as you can see. It's a beautiful building here. Figured I'd bring y'all up here. So we always talk about Puff all the time. Let's talk about some other things, right? Because I see a pattern going on. Now, Vince McMahon was just brought up on a lawsuit that spanned about 30 years ago. And I'm going to get into that in a minute here. But I find it intriguing because these actual charges were brought up 30 years ago. And then coincidentally, nobody was brought to justice over these charges. Nobody was even brought to court, which is kind of odd to me. Not to mention the fact that the person that accused Mr. Vince McMahon, those some years ago, also worked for Vince McMahon at one point in time, which would incline to me that at some point or another, if there is some type of catastrophe that happened or position, that this said gentleman might have something to do with it. That's why I came over here and I said, let me talk about it real quick. All right, Javon, what's going on, brother? Thank you so much, as always. He actually likes to see me get money. You know what I'm saying? I be trying to do my work here. So I put y'all up here to WWE headquarters. We're going to talk a little bit about Vince McMahon and how he's in the latest of slew of individuals that's now being brought up on charges. Once again, from the past, I want to emphasize that. These charges are not new. They're from 30 years ago. And it said such a man, which I'm going to read out to you guys right now as I just give y'all guys a visual that we are actually here at the WWE headquarters. Who loves you, baby? They say I don't deserve no cash apps. The nerve. They said I don't deserve no support. The nerve. Right, y'all? So let me read off these charges. Just give me 1 second, guys. I got two things going on at one time, and I want to read this off to you guys correctly. There's actually one that I didn't want to read off, but I thought that one was very opinionated, and I don't like reading those and regurgitating things that are listening. So here we go. Now I'm going to read this off to you guys, and I want you guys to listen so you know exactly what's going on here. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be out there, they're going to be like, oh, this is another man, you know. But listen to this. A new lawsuit alleges Vince McMahon knowingly enabled the sexual exploitation of children by a WWE employee in the now listen to this, 1980s. The suit filed on behalf of five former WWE ringboards alleges that McMahon and his wife Linda McMahon, the WWE and TKA Holdings, the league's parent company, knowingly allowed former ringside announcer Melvin Phillips. Now, this is the guy that's the center of all this, Melvin Phillips Jr. I want you to pay attention to that name, Melvin Phillips Jr. All right? Now, Melvin Phillips Jr. knowingly allowed former ringside announcer Melvin Phillips Jr. to use his position to sexually exploit children as young as 12 and 13 years old. I'm going to repeat that. He used his position to enable and abuse and sexually exploit children 12 to 13 years old. Phillips lured and manipulated the young boys with promises of meeting famous wrestlers and attending a highly popular wrestling shows, experiences that were otherwise unattainable for these kids, the lawsuit alleges. The McMahons and the WWE allowed Phillips and others to engage in and foster the WWE rampant culture and sexual abuse. The WWE did not immediately respond to CNN's request for a comment. Jessica Rosenberg, an attorney from Vince McMahon, called the allegations false. Now, the thing that sits out to me is they called these allegations false 30 years ago as well, back in 1992. More than 30 years ago, the columnist Phil Mushnick tried to make headlines with the same false claims. Those allegations were never proven, Rosenberg said in a statement. The negligent claims against Mr. McMahon were asserted today relied on the same absurd, defamatory, and utterly meritless statements from Mr. Mushnick. Now I'm going to continue. Well, we will vigorously. Sorry, guys, I got tongue tied for a minute. We will vigorously defend the McMahon and the competent court and will find these claims that are untrue and unfounded. The suit filed in Baltimore County. This suit was filed in Maryland. I want y'all to keep attention to that. The suit that was filed in Maryland on behalf of 5 John Does alleges that Phillips would recruit children to work as ring boys. Now, basically, that means people that would go around, pick up towels, things of that nature, all right? That Phillips would that on behalf of 5 Jane Does alleges that Phillips would recruit children to work as ring boys, helping him run errands and set up the WWE events. However, the job was guised for sexually exploiting the boys, which Phillips would do often in front of wrestlers and executives in the locker room. Now, y'all really believe that? Now, this was around the time that Hulk Hogan and a lot of these guys were around. The lawsuit alleges McMahon was aware of Phillips' abuse of children, and in fact, the lawsuit alleges that McMahon admitted that he was aware earlier as 1980 that Phillips had a peculiar, unnatural interest in young boys. Phillips worked for the WWE in the 1970s, 1980s, and the 1990s as a prominent ringside announcer and crew chief. He died in 2012. So this man is not even here anymore. You understand what I'm saying? Listen, man, we ain't here talking about little kids. If you can't respect that, get up on out of here. According to the lawsuit, the McMahons fired Phillips in 1998 after allegations about him sexually exploiting children continue to surface. Yet they rehired him 6 weeks later, and the lawsuit alleged that he continued recruiting young men to sexually exploit them. The lawsuit alleges that McMahon's rehired Phillips on the condition that he steer clear from kids. Now, this is what they say. Stay clear from kids, yet he did not. And they knowingly let it happen. Phillips would only often film. Now pay attention. Remember this tape y'all be talking about? They said the lawsuit says that McMahon's rehired Phillips on the condition that he steer clear from kids. Yet he did not. And he knowingly let it happen. Phillips would often film his sexual abuse of underage ring boys on video camera. After decades of suffering in silence, their childhood trauma, these survivors came forth now to hold McMahon and the WWE accountable for the conduct that allowing the systematic and persuasive abuse by Phillips in alleged lawsuits. So there you have it. The WWE logo shines on Wrestling World Headquarters, which is this right here. All right. So I wanted to make sure, like I said, we are really here. I'm gonna walk y'all around a little bit. This is WWE headquarters. And we come up here because I wanted to talk about this. You know, I'm seeing a slew of different men that'll be brought up on charges. This charge is from 30 years ago. 30 years ago. You guys want a little zoom right here. Y'all can see a little bit better. We're actually here at WWE headquarters. These charges are from 30 years ago. In 1992, these charges were brought up before. And I believe if there was a real problem at that time, it should have been handled. Obviously, it wasn't. Now, there's two plays that we could take on this. One, this man should have never been rehired and perhaps never worked there in the first place. Two, why was this man so important to work there? Was his job duties that inclusive and that important to be taken undermined by children, if that is the case? Number three, if Mr. McMahon, if you pay very close attention, he had nothing to do with any of this. The only thing they're centering in on him right now is saying that Mr. McMahon knowingly let what happened happen. And I just don't tend to agree with that. You know, children watch wrestling. In fact, children would have been the largest demographic for Mr. McMahon and this company, as you see right here on this billboard, WWE. And with that being mentioned, I would think with all the children coming to the wrestling shows, I would think with children being their number one demographic and fans, I would think with the wrestlers they had at that moment being the heights of, Jesus Christ, who was around at those times. There's so many. Roddy Piper, Andre the Giant. We're talking Hulk Hulk Hogan. We're talking about all these famous wrestlers who were around. And you trying to tell me these famous wrestlers let that happen? No, sir, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Not only do I not believe that, what I really think is, I think somewhere in the administration, and I don't know whose administration exactly, but I think somewhere in the administration, there was a set of directives put in this current administration. And I think some of them come from perhaps AOC, that's a possibility. I think some of them come from a lot of other individuals, but I'm just seeing a current trend where you have a lot of people, specifically men, being brought up on charges of a little bit of a list of everything from 20, 30, 40 years ago, and I just find it a little odd. I've always been a fan of the WWE. I've always been a fan of Vince McMahon. I've always, of course, been a fan of the wrestlers. So a lot of people will say, well, of course you'll say that. No, I don't think that's the case. I think what the case is we're seeing a trend and a pattern here. And this is coming from someone's office. And as you guys have known, I've been vivid, and I'm amazed there's not more people in here talking about this one. If I was talking about Puff right now, it'd be dozens of people in here. And there was somebody that came in here earlier. Was Vince McMahon at the Diddy parties? Vince McMahon is not being implemented and doing anything. Now, see how quickly people start to gossiping? That's why I said, let me talk about this right now. Because what I see is, I see something different happening here. I see a whole list of men being put in position to strip their money away. Do you know how big this company is behind me? Do you know how big this company is behind me? Let me give you an example. The woman that used to be on his side, Miss Linda McMahon, at one time was the freaking governor. You understand what I'm saying? That's how real it, and that's how deep it gets. This is a company that you can very well strip across in several different factors. It's a media giant, a long-standing media giant. And the best way to do it is enter it in by insert lawsuit here. You understand what I'm saying? Insert lawsuit here. Even if these things aren't true, their reputation will be so ruined that they won't be able to bounce back, not at least the way they were previously. And I think that's what a lot of these people are hoping that are in this particular current administration. I remember that I saw AOC and I saw a whole list of others at one time in the beginning of the administration and the constituency that you see currently right now in the front of your eyes. And I talked about this, and I said it at the Trump trial, both of them. I said it also when I was down there for the Jonathan Majors trial, and I said it also when I was there just recently for Puff's, all three of his arraignments. I said there's something here in the water, and I remember at the beginning of the administration, a lot of you don't have to believe me, a lot of y'all don't have to listen to me, but I'm telling you the truth here, and maybe later on you'll find it out for yourself. I remember these girls plotting together, and they said, oh, we're going to do a lot of things. We're going to take down a lot of people, da-da-da-da. And I don't remember exactly the language and the jargon at every point of view. But what I do know is, I know this much. I know Vince McMahon and a whole list of other these guys or whatever. It can't be all this. It's something to this stuff. You guys understand what I'm saying here? And I think what we got going on here is we got some people that are within that administration that feel not only they're going to take down men, and I do say that, I do believe some of it has to do with misandry, because AOC and her whole troop, what were they called, the squad, they seemed like they were all about that. You know, this, let's tear down some men. And that seems to be the privy nowadays, let's tear down some men, you know what I mean? And by that back, I think that's going to be the case. Now, I think when this administration is over, because they're not going to win November 4th, that's the way I feel, not with that candidate. I don't want to get it mistaken. I don't necessarily have a problem with the Democratic Party. I just have a problem with their chosen candidates that they bring and put in our face, and the jargon that spews from their veins. I don't think it's best for the country. A lot of people want to call me whatever they want to call me. No, I'm just a proud American, just like anybody else would be proud of their country. I have family that worked in the military in multiple different branches. I always speak about the military men and their service all the time on my podcast. I don't care if you one generation back from Guatemala to wherever, you know what I'm saying? If you served in the country and you served for the country, I always have a thing for you. But I am privy to certain individuals within these administrations, both of them, both Republican and Democrat, both. You know, I saw a lot of people regurgitating the video with him and Trump. So what? They was going to have a wrestling match. So what? What does that mean? You know what I mean? People trying to, dig out wherever they could dig. Once again, guys, let me turn this around one time for you. See where we at. You know your boy always bring you out somewhere. The rest of these vloggers, they be in the bedroom telling you about this stuff. We bring you here. We're up here at WWE headquarters. Thought I'd bring y'all right here. Let me take y'all around this beautiful building real quick so y'all can see how enormous this building is. And this whole entire building here makes up the WWE headquarters, don't you know? Oh yeah, we doing real. We don't do all that talking. Guys, make sure y'all hit up the Cash App, and I have something else for y'all tomorrow that y'all might take a privy to and might like. Today, I actually saw a lot of people here today, more than usual, to be quite honest with you, and they were utilizing this room right here when I first arrived. So I was just sitting around. I did some music or whatever. I wanted everybody to get out the way before I actually started. You know what I'm saying? Filming and stuff like that. But as you can see right here, this is one of the meeting rooms for the WWE. There was quite a few people in here today, unusually than normal. And like I said, I just think some of these charges from 30 years ago against Vince McMahon and numerous other men is just quite peculiar in this particular time. It doesn't match up very well for me, and it's administration that may be possibly moving out of position. I think it's perfect timing for them, and that's my personal opinion. If the Biden administration does not win, or whoever they picked as a candidate does not win, then we know what it is. Now, you best believe that a lot of this is political. I know a lot of y'all don't think so, but it's political. 30 years ago, when they brought up these charges didn't stick to the individual nor to Vince McMahon. There's been chat and jargon. I saw, and another thing, speaking of Piers Morgan, I got to say this about Piers Morgan. A couple of days before this suit actually came out, I found it kind of odd that Piers Morgan, he happened to have a whole little broadcast or whatever on there, which leads me to believe even more so that Piers Morgan might be in a federal informant mold. Piers, what are you doing over there, buddy? Are you working with the federal government? That's okay if you are, but just allow those people to have the chance to defend themselves once you do come over there. That's all we're asking. Because Piers Morgan's looking real peculiar nowadays. Once again, guys, we are up here at WWE Davin Lewis podcast. Make sure y'all join in. Make sure y'all share this. Now, why is it not the same enthusiasm? You see how people have selective outrage of who they are mad at and who they aren't mad at? And that is off their lip was the key. What's up, William? The first thing off their lips was the key. Was Vince McMahon at the Diddy party? He said, key. I know I'm a man, but I want to go over and talk with the girls about it later. You know what I'm saying? Like, we gotta find a solution. Now, what I want to know is who's next. Yesterday, I was going to cover something for you guys, but wasn't no enthusiasm there, and I didn't tell y'all what I was going to cover for you. But I was actually going to cover Harvey Weinstein. You know what I mean? Because why is it that we should only... Let me turn this camera back around on me. Why is it that we only talk about Diddy right now when there's several other men that are being brought up on charges, including Vince McMahon? And it seems like to me a lot of it is very planned, it's very staged, it's very matter of factly right at the beginning of the end of possibly the constituency of past being the Democratic Party. The nominee that they have right now, it's not a strong nominee. The polls have shown that. We ain't got to make anything up. And as many of y'all know, if you don't know, if it's your first time tuning in with me, I've covered everything from the Jonathan Majors case. I've covered both Trump arraignments. I've covered all three arraignments of Puff now. This is what I do, And so I had to make sure that I came up here and gave Vince McMahon his just due and his fair shake of things, because I do believe there's some type of, I don't know if you want to call it plot or plan or whatever, from someone in that constituency over there right now. If I had to point my finger, I would probably say it's AOC and her quote-unquote squad, or what's left and remaining of them. I think that they started and initiated a lot of this stuff, and it seems to always point back to January of this early year, Everything points back to January. Why January? Because it usually takes about 6 to 7 months for these things to facilitate themselves on paper. That's why. And it seems like to me for the last 30 years, 30 years ago when they wasn't able to convict Mr. McMahon. It wasn't even able to bring this guy in on the charges or whatever the case may be. Nor was this guy from 30 years ago or the person who, I think his name was Mr. McMillan, the person that brought him up. So what I'm saying is I just find it very, 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 let's say, convenient that now we have Puff, we have this guy, we have 3 other individual men, whatever. Screw Harvey Weinstein, we know he did that. But my point is this. Isn't it funny that all these men hold on to billions? See, we ain't talking, you can do all the chit chat you want to. I worked in the music business for 17 years. I've been around multimillionaires since I was 21 years old. I'm in my 40s now. I never lived in the projects. I hung in them. You understand what I'm saying? But my address, as people will tell you, and anybody else that know what I'm talking about, I always lived in condos by the beach and stuff like that. I'm spoiled to a certain degree. You know what I'm saying? I am. I ain't gonna lie to you. But my point is, I'm a fair man. And I always stand up for the common man because I know how the common man thinks, especially coming out of the shoreline. And one of the things I see here is a repeated pattern of these men that are very wealthy men, that are men that have great opulence in the media game being torn down. And what I think that purpose is to remove their influence from future generations. A lot of people will correlate and they will say that the past actions of Puff, the past actions of Vince McMahon, the past actions of all these men, these horrible men, all these men, you got to get these men out. Yay, misandrous, you know. That for that group, not for all women. I love chicks, trust me. But for the misandrous group that we got out there, there is a momentum, there is a rage out there, and I understand that some of it justifiably, some of it not. Some of it just, you know, tickies and pitchforks running around the local village. You understand what I'm saying? Oh, I'm a victim. Everybody ain't a victim. And the problem is when you get in the way of real victims, real women that has stuff happen to them, just to bring up and try to get a cash payday, I think that's a problem. And I think more women should start standing up, and I think more women should start speaking out about it. Out of the tens of thousands of people that follow me here, one of the things I want you guys to learn more than anything, learn when you're getting lied to, and learn when something is put in front of you and it may not necessarily be the truth. And what I'm saying right now is, I find it very peculiar that Vince McMahon right now at this moment is now being brought up on the lawsuit when this problem was purposely put there in front of him. It was also there 30 years ago in 1992. And you want me to believe that the likes of it, because it's mentioned in the lawsuit down there in Baltimore, don't you know? They say that the wrestlers knowingly sat back because of fear of Vince McMahon and losing money. Listen, there was about 3 or 4 different wrestling leagues out there back then. I remember, I'm in my 40s, I remember this, all right? So it was a lot of different leagues that those wrestlers pitfalled from and bounced back and forth from. I think Hulk Hogan went to like 3 different leagues. Andre the Giant, he went to like 3 different leagues. The WWE as a whole, as a company, wasn't even that big in the 1980s. They were just starting out. So I thought I'd take a moment to just come up here and just talk about that real quick. I don't necessarily believe in any of these charges necessarily. I think they could have been concluded 30 years ago if they hold any more, you know, any actually any feudal type of knowledge to it or feudal type of whatever you want to say to it. And I'll talk about this a little bit more, but I wanted to come here because I wanted to specifically point out the fact that I don't see it. And you're saying there were dozens and dozens of boys. And then the worst thing about it is the gentleman that's implemented, he's now passed away. He died back in 2000, I think it was 2012 or something like that. So he's long since been deceased. So you couldn't get any monetary gain from him. You couldn't get anything from him. You couldn't get anything off of him or anything else. So it is, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is. Hold on one second, guys. Let me get this goofy out of here. We always got some goofy little boy up in here. These little boys, you know, they like to come up in here, little boys. Hey, you see me? Can you say hi to me and recognize my profile? Yeah. Always got these little boys that come up in here. I don't mess with you little boys. Once again, we're up here at WWE headquarters. I thought I'd bring y'all up here to talk about Vince McMahon for a few minutes. I'm going to float off in a few seconds here because it is rather chilly out here. And I don't get the support that I need. You know, that's funny, right? That's funny. I bring y'all to the shit that they talk about on the news. And they go, don't donate to that nigga. donate to the nigga in the bedroom. It's always that. I don't care. All this sooner or later will come into fruition even greater for me. So I just keep on pushing with the pitfalls or whatever, and this analogy that's the hate it is. But like I said, just remember who loves you, baby. I always bring y'all to the spots, you know what I'm saying? And there's so much more I can bring y'all to and take y'all to on a daily basis. There's something happening tomorrow. If y'all want to hit the Cash App up and support the channel, y'all may. You know what I'm saying? We'll do that. But I wanted to say them quick words about Vince McMahon. I don't think a case from 30 years ago and it wasn't found any virality in it at that time, I don't think it's important. I'm not saying it's not important, it didn't happen, but I just don't think that wrestlers like Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant and all these people that were in circulation and they're named in this lawsuit, I just have a hard time believing they were all around and saw all that when they had like 3 different other wrestling leagues at that time to go to. So is Vince McMahon guilty because he took the other hand? No, I don't see how somebody's that important that you would sit around at that moment and allow them to molest children. Who are you that important that's an announcer? Do you know his job duties? This is why I try to tell y'all all the time, listen, I don't just try to sound cocky. He worked at a record label for 17 years, so of course he's like, no, what I'm trying to tell you is people have positions. And this because they talk real loud or whatever. Listen, you know how many people I used to run into in the BMG building that wore a suit and they had no power whatsoever. They was just good talkers. Don't come to me with that talking shit. Prove something. You know what I'm saying? And I usually I dress the same way. Y'all see me down at the courthouses. I've covered the Jonathan Majors trial. I've covered both Trump hearings. I just recently covered all 3 hearings for Puff. So, you know what I mean? I'll be in a mix. Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me about scary business and your dreams. I ain't with that dreaming shit. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know that for a fact. That's why I have the tens of thousands of followers I do and everybody else on here. So like I said, I like to come here front page because I like to give these men a chance. Now, if Vince McMahon is guilty, he got to ride out with that. You understand what I'm saying? If Puff is guilty, he got to ride out with that. If a few other people is guilty, they got to ride out with that. If there's some enablers, they got to ride out with that. You understand what I'm saying? But from what I'm seeing and what I've read, and these charges that go back 30 years ago, it seems like there's a little something funny, and it seems like the timing is just a little too perfect for me. You understand what I'm saying here? I'm going to give you guys another view of this real quick, and then I'm going to be out because, like I said, I know my Cash App ain't ringing. They only bless people on here on YouTube in the urban space and be in their bedroom. I told you, right now in America is the worst time in the love to ever be a real nigga. Trust me on that one. You got to be fake and it be animated. You know what I'm saying? But for those real ones, make sure y'all hit the Cash App up. You know what I'm saying? We see a little $60, $70 in there, and I see it in there soon enough. I got something else planned for y'all tomorrow, but it will take some traveling. That's cool too. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna always live though, baby. See how I do good things for my subscribers. I love how people just log off. That hate is deep, ain't it? You can't even work with your money, work for your money on here. If you got a brown face, they are not fucking with you on YouTube, boy. If you a man with a brown face, you will get no donations unless you are pandering to women. Yeah, that's the way it goes. And what I mean that respectfully. I mean, when I say pandering, I mean like, I love you women. All you women are great. The guys that do that, you guys need to watch them people. Those people are weirdos. They don't care about you. Those people are weirdos. Once again, I thought I'd bring y'all up here to WWE headquarters and talk about Vince McMahon, a few ticks or whatever. I hope you enjoyed. I will talk to y'all later. All right.